Chapter 46. Suspect Chen Ge's fingers slowly tightened as he linked the series of unusual actions together. Without saying a word, he pulled out his phone to call Inspector Li's number at Western Zhejiang City's police station while standing in the security office. The phone rang twice before Inspector Li's gravelly voice came through the line. "Hello? Uncle Sanbao, I need to report something to the police. 1. You'll need to call 110 for that. 2. My name is Inspector Li. I found the last fugitive from Ping An Apartments. He was at New Century Park." When he heard that, Inspector Li's voice changed. "You sure?" "Yes, I am. But please don't come in your police car. You'll spook him and he'll go on the run. Be there in 15 minutes. After ending the call, Chen Ge held the phone in his hand as he stared at the surveillance footage. The guards also realized something was wrong, and they hurried to call Uncle Shu. "What's going on?" After a while, Uncle Shu rushed over, sipping from his water bottle. "Can I not have my lunch in peace? Xiao Chen, why are you here and not at your haunted house?" He glanced at the surveillance footage. When he saw the phone in Chen Ge's hand, he asked cautiously, "Who were you on the phone with?" "The police." Chen Ge did not turn to look at Uncle Shu as his eyes jumped between the many surveillance cameras. "They'll be here in another 15 minutes. "Police? Why didn't you discuss this with me first?" Uncle Shu's voice went up a pitch. "The park management has its own way of dealing with robberies, natural disaster." "Uncle Shu." Chen Ge turned around to interrupt Uncle Shu. His eyes were incongruently calm and collected considering the words that fell out of his lips. "Someone is trying to kill me." When he announced that, the security room became silent, and all the guards whipped their heads around to look at him. "Chen Ge, have you been mentally affected from living inside the haunted house for too long?" Uncle Shu did not call him Xiao Chen like usual, but used Chen Ge, which he reserved for serious occasions only. "What nonsense are you talking about in broad daylight?" "I helped the police solve the arson case at Ping An Apartments, but one of the murderers is still on the loose." Uncle Shu understood what Chen Ge was getting at then. "You mean that person is now inside the park and is out for revenge?" "I thought he would escape the region to hide, but who would have thought the man was so courageous?" Chen Ge pointed at the man on screen. "This visitor is acting too strangely. His cap is too low, meaning he's trying to hide his face. Plus, today is not a cold day, but he's wearing a long-sleeve shirt, and he kept his hands inside his pocket throughout. Even when he was smoking or drinking water, he only used his right hand, and he kept his left hand firmly inside the pocket. That might be so, but none of that proves anything. Perhaps those are just his personal quirks?" Uncle Shu put down the water bottle and walked to close the security room door. "The fugitive's name is Zhang Peng. His build is exact same as that of the man on screen. Most importantly, there is the tattoo of a peony on the back of his hand." "Peony?" "The flower of good fortune. The man is a down-on-his-luck gambler who has lost everything." "Meaning he kept his left hand hidden because it would expose the tattoo?" Uncle Shu was slowly convinced by Chen Ge's story. "Could it be that the man has some weird skin disease that he doesn't want anyone to see?" "I have other proof." Chen Ge switched the video footage. After entering the park, he only visited one attraction, the Ferris wheel, and he went on it 3 times in a row. Do you know what that represents?" "What does that represent?" Uncle Shu was slowly lagging behind. "The Ferris wheel provides the best vantage point of the park. He was trying to find the best escape route for himself." Chen Ge slowed down the footage. "When Shu Wan and I left the haunted house to go to the canteen, I saw him sneak toward the haunted house. You can see from the video footage that he wandered around the haunted house the whole morning but didn't approach it. He only did so after ensuring that Zhu Wan and myself had left. This is definitely not the normal way a visitor would act." "You're right." Uncle Shu nodded, convinced by Chen Ge's argument. "But why would he go near the haunted house only when no one is there?" Chen Ge tapped his fingers on the table. "If I were in his shoes, planning to kill the owner of a haunted house, I would definitely stake out the place first to familiarize myself with the building's layout. Perhaps I could hide inside the haunted house and wait for the place to close for maintenance. Then I could jump at my target without him anticipating my arrival. Furthermore, a haunted house is the perfect place to hide a body. If the bloodstains are taken care of, when the body is discovered, it will most likely be the next day already." Uncle Shu got chills listening to Chen Ge's speculation. There was a scene forming in his mind already. Now that you mention it, it is quite scary. The scariest thing is that it almost happened. Chen Ge pulled his gaze back, and his balled fists slowly relaxed. Thankfully, he has acted too rashly. Plus, my senses have been maintained at an all-time high due to the many weird events that have been happening. That's the only reason I managed to spot him. Then, where is he now? Shall I alert the other visitors? Uncle Shu finally understood the gravity of the situation. He has already left the park after he was discovered. At the time, I still hadn't seen the footage, so I was not confident with my speculation. That's why I didn't stop him. You did well. If the suspect went berserk inside the park, it would have caused great chaos. Uncle Shu took a sip of the water and told the guards beside him, "Remember to cooperate with the police when they arrive later." 10 minutes later, the door to the security room was pushed open. 3 men in casual attire strode into the room. The one leading was Li Sanbao. "Where's Chen Ge? Let me see your surveillance footage." With the aid of the guards, Inspector Li compared the man in the video to the police station's database and finally managed to confirm the two were one and the same. "Kid, you've done society another great service." Inspector Li smacked Chen Ge on his back before pulling out his phone to contact the station to report on the situation. After some discussion, they decided to split into 2 teams. One was going to conduct a secret investigation, while the other would surround New Century Park and observe from afar. Zhang Peng is an extremely dangerous individual. You have to be careful since you're being targeted. The probability of him coming back is very high, so I suggest you stay away from the haunted house for the time being. After hearing what Inspector Li had to say, all the guards felt uneasy. Chen Ge, however, was surprisingly unfazed. "If I'm not there, Xiao Wan alone won't be able to keep the haunted house open. If I close the haunted house, Zhang Peng will definitely know that gig is up. He'll go on the run then." "You mean you're planning to stay at the haunted house as bait?" Inspector Li frowned slightly, thinking this plan was far too dangerous. "Don't worry. If he dares come inside my haunted house, I guarantee he won't be leaving anytime soon." Chapter 47. I'm an emotionless killer. I'm afraid I cannot agree to that. Inspector Li shook his head. Capturing a fugitive is the police's responsibility. How can we allow you to take this unnecessary risk? Staying behind at the haunted house is merely to create a false image for Zhang Peng to think he hasn't been exposed. This way, he'll follow through his plan to seek me out. When he returns to the park, you will be able to detain him, Chen Ge explained after much contemplation. If we fail to catch him this time, I'll need to spend the rest of my life in fear, looking over my shoulder every moment, since he could strike at any given time. In any case, the actual plan will have to be decided only after we discuss it with the city's investigation team. The case at Ping An Apartments is their responsibility. We from the Western Station are merely providing assistance, but I will relay your request to them. Inspector Li packed up his laptop and made a call before leaving the security room with the 2 other officers. Uncle Shu wandered over after the police left. He was worried about Chen Ge. "Xiao Chen, I think you should listen to the police and go find somewhere else other than the haunted house to stay for a few days. Hiding from the problem is not going to solve anything, but I appreciate the concern, Uncle Shu." After taking another look at the surveillance, Chen Ge returned to the haunted house. Xu Wan was leaning against the gate, and when she saw Chen Ge walk toward her from the security office, she pointed at the boxed rice left on the table. "Boss, today's menu is stir-fry green chili with pork and rice. When the canteen auntie wasn't paying attention, I added another scoop of meat for you." Chen Ge thanked Xiao Wan for the rice. He looked at the girl, but decided not to reveal any information about Zhang Peng. He finished the rice with big mouthfuls and began the afternoon service. Xu Wan acted as the ghost inside the Minghun scenario, while Chen Ge stayed at the entrance to sell tickets. He kept his head low, but his eyes swept every corner of the park. Zhang Peng's appearance can be a curse or a blessing depending on how I use him. After completing several missions on the black phone, Chen Ge's logical thinking had improved tremendously, and his tolerance for stress had been given a power-up. There's a mirror monster hiding inside the haunted house currently. The thing can pass through the mirror world and reality freely, In other words, if there's a mirror, it is invincible. Chen Ge sold the ticket mechanically, while his brain worked on overdrive to process the information. The attacks on He-san and He-feng were very similar. Based on He-feng's description, the monster's aim was to possess their body and swap out their consciousness. Temporarily, we have no idea what the purpose of that is, but one thing worth considering is, if the monster enters a person's body, does that mean that it won't be able to escape the body at least for a short period of time? Chen Ge had discovered this phenomenon when he conversed with He-feng, but there was no danger-free method to test out this theory. He had prepared to give up on this idea, but then Zhang Peng had decided to show himself that morning. When he confirmed it was Zhang Peng on the camera, the plan had been settled in Chen Ge's mind. He planned to use Zhang Peng as bait. He had to figure out a way to lure Zhang Peng inside the haunted house and enable the mirror monster to possess his body. This way, he could kill two birds with one stone. It was also why he insisted on staying at the haunted house. This is the plan. It's dangerous, but if it's successful, I'll be able to remove two threats at once. At 5 p.m., Chen Ge called Shu Wan out and let her leave early. He went back inside the haunted house to prepare various stuff for Zhang Peng. At 5:30 p.m., Chen Ge received a call from Inspector Li, telling him that the police had set up a perimeter around New Century Park. If Zhang Peng showed himself, he would definitely not get away. After dinner, Chen Ge carried Dr. Skullcracker's outfit and hammer as he entered the haunted house's main control room. He locked the door and sat before the monitors. If there was no accident, he was going to spend the whole night inside the room. There are indeed too few cameras. There are too many blind spots, so I mustn't let my guard down. The sun dipped below the horizon, and as daylight left, New Century Park felt weirdly eerie. Chen Ge wrapped the outfit around him as a cover as he sat inside the control room. At midnight, those who should not be there had arrived, but those who should have been there had not. Similar to the previous night, the sound of sawing came from the murder by midnight scenario. Is the creature taunting me? Chen Ge shrugged the outfit off and walked to the door, wondering if he should go meet the creature. I'll let it be for now. Putting back on the ear mic, Chen Ge hugged the doll left behind by his parents to his chest and returned to the surveillance monitor. At around 1 a.m., when Chen Ge was at the verge of giving up, he saw the door to the bathroom rattle on screen. Someone's there? He focused on the monitor, completely rejuvenated. Not long after, the door fell open a sliver, and a lanky man wielding a 20-centimeter-long boning knife slipped through the opening. That bathroom is where I did my first nightmare mission. The window leads outside. He probably prepared some stepping stone beforehand and messed with the lock earlier. Chen Ge looked at the surveillance calmly. The door to the control room was still locked. The control room's location was well hidden, and those unfamiliar with the haunted house's layout would not be able to reach it anytime soon. On screen, Zhang Peng traveled down the corridor, holding the knife in one hand and his phone in another. He had no idea he was being watched as he focused on sidestepping the random stuff and unknown props that littered the corridor. After 15 minutes traversing the obstacle course, Zhang Peng finally reached the staff break room. He could be seen hesitating at the door. His chest rose and fell unevenly, and his hand that held the knife shivered. He reached out to push on the door multiple times, but every time, he pulled back just before his finger touched the door. It was obvious that he was caught in a conundrum. Zhang Peng dithered for about 20 seconds before he came to a decision. He did not even notice the camera that was looking at him. He raised the knife in one hand while the other grabbed the doorknob. With a deep breath, he shoved the door open, and like a leopard pouncing on its prey, he jumped into the break room. 1 minute later, Zhang Peng came out carrying the knife. There was a bit of red on the blade. He seemed to have accidentally slashed his arm. He tossed the knife to his other hand. Zhang Peng's expression turned more grievous. He glanced at the stairs before picking up the pace as he went down the corridor. From the surveillance feed, Chen Ge could see Zhang Peng was heading toward the control room. Chen Ge messaged Inspector Li and held Dr. Skullcracker's hammer as he hid behind the door. He was about to surprise Zhang Peng with a horror movie classic, The Scare Behind the Door, but Zhang Peng merely wandered past the control room's door before heading into the workers' passageway. What is this man up to? Chen Ge was confused by his opponent's actions. He hurried to the monitor and saw that Zhang Peng was using his knife to pry off the wooden planks that had sealed up the trap door at the end of passageway before heading in without a second thought. Why is he heading into the murder by midnight scenario? Chen Ge peeled off his ear mic as his eyes widened with shock. There have been sawing sounds coming out from the scenario. Does he think I'm sawing stuff inside? Chapter 48. Please let me go. Chen Ge's features twisted as Zhang Peng's vicious and obstinate glare appeared in his mind. Two demons fighting each other? The sawing sound from the murder by midnight scenario did not stop due to Zhang Peng's entrance. The mirror monster probably did not anticipate that someone would rush in so blindly and rashly. I can't play it safe any longer. I have to see the mirror monster enter Zhang Peng's body with my own eyes before I can sleep easy at night. With a glance at the surveillance to pinpoint Zhang Peng's location, Chen Ge yanked out the chains from the Dr. Skullcracker outfit and dropped them to the floor before putting both the outfit and the skin mask on. He waved the iron hammer twice to get a feel for it, and a wicked energy radiated from Chen Ge. How come it feels like I'm the bad guy here? After grabbing his keys and phone, he shoved the dolls into his pocket, grabbed hold of the weirdly designed hammer, and headed out of the control room. Trapped inside the murder by midnight scenario, Zhang Peng felt the weight of the knife in his hand getting heavier. He had prepared for this day for a long time, but one could never prepare enough because accidents had already happened. It was already 1 a.m., and a normal person would be asleep already. Even if they were not, they would be resting in their bedroom. He was all sorts of excited when he saw the sign that pointed to the staff break room. It had taken him a long time before he managed to calm down. He had given himself plenty of pep talk to arouse the hatred and resentment within himself before he gathered enough courage to blast through the door. As he did so, he had waved the knife fiendishly at the bed. He had been so caught in the motion that he did not notice he had slashed himself. The blade was tipped with blood, but there was no one inside the bed. The only blood stain on the ruined bedspread came from his arm. Other than resentment, there was now an additional stain of grievance. It fueled his murderous intent, eclipsing his rationality completely. Ruining Ping An Apartments, sending Huan Air into jail. You despicable bastard, I swear I'll kill you if it's the last thing I do. The more Zhang Peng thought about it, the angrier he became. The sawing sound from upstairs was like flies, causing his emotions to rile up even more. He gripped his knife tightly as he wandered close to the source. To prevent being found out, he was extremely careful along the way. I'm close. The source is from this floor. Zhang Peng poked his head out from the stairs. He did not carry any light source with him. He kept his back to the wall as he entered the third-floor corridor. I say, this haunted house sure is creepy. The corridors are as complicated as a maze. After I kill him, even if I just drop his body inside a random room, it'll take at least half a month before he's discovered. His lips curled up into a cruel smirk. The sound is coming from in front. But what is the man up to? Not sleeping so late at night, but sawing stuff. Fixing some emergency props? Zhang Peng bent down. He used the long sleeves to cover his wound as he crawled forward with the point of the knife, leading the way forward. At the end of the third-floor corridor, the entrance to the scenario, Zhang Peng saw a blurry black shadow. The shadow was standing in the middle of the door, holding something in his hand, scratching on the door. Weird. Why didn't he turn on the lights? It was not until he was so close that Zhang Peng realized this incongruity. However, he did not dwell on it because his mind was soon swallowed up by the desire for revenge. The air seemed to have frozen around him. He slowly raised the knife above his shoulder. His body was as tense as a strung bow, and he charged forward to stab at the shadow. Go to hell! The full speed sprint sent Zhang Peng and the knife crashing into the shadow. An excited smile had begun to appear on his face, but it only lasted for 0.2 seconds before it disappeared. The knife shot through the shadow directly. The inertia caused Zhang Peng to slam into the door head first, and he almost broke his waist from the impact. What the fuck? Zhang Peng was unable to accept this result. He climbed up from the floor in a hurry and waved the knife frantically around him. Where is he? Where is he? After his anger left him, a sensation that he had not experienced before started to grow within Zhang Peng's heart. I swear I saw a black shadow standing here. My eyes weren't mistaken. Zhang Peng no longer cared about hiding his tracks. He pulled out his phone to light up his surroundings. The door was crisscrossed with scratch marks, and several sharp mirror pieces littered the ground. This was all left behind by the dark shadow. So I was right. There was someone standing here earlier. So where in the world did he go? Jiang Peng shivered from head to toe. His anger had been completely drenched as he looked fearfully down the darkened corridor that suddenly felt so eerie. A man can't just disappear from thin air unless... That wasn't a normal man. His Adam's apple wiggled, and the weak light from the phone could no longer bring him a sense of security. If anything, the weak light only heightened his fear, like there were monsters hiding in the corners where the light could not reach. The haunted house's owner isn't a living person. This haunted house is really haunted. Jiang Peng's forehead was covered in cold sweat. Even his hand that gripped the knife was soaked with sweat. Any thought of revenge and murder had completely left his mind. He dashed down the corridor hurriedly. All he had on his mind then was to escape this blasted place. In his hurry to escape, he did not notice the angle of the staircase door was different from how he had left it before. Revenge can be replanned after I leave this place. Holding his wounded arm, Jiang Peng jumped into the staircase when a shadow flitted out from behind the door and assaulted him. The sound of bone cracking was crisp to the ear. Jiang Peng held his right arm that seemed to be dying, and his brain went into shutdown. Sorry, I missed. Chen Ge wandered out from behind the door. The creepy skin mask twisted with a display of myriad expressions as Chen Ge's lips moved. I was aiming for your shoulder blade. Chen Ge's tone was indifferent, like he was talking about the weather. Looking at Chen Ge, Jiang Peng felt like he was about to suffocate. Jesus, Buddha, Allah, someone please help me. Jiang Peng did try to resist, but when he saw the 40-centimeter-long hammer in Chen Ge's hands, his limbs refused to listen to his commands. The hammer is covered with blood, and the handle has the shape of a human spine. Are you that afraid people won't know that you're a mad murderer? Without giving his opponent much time to recover, Chen Ge picked up the hammer and swung it at Jiang Peng's leg. He needed someone who was completely defenseless to be the vessel for the mirror monster. Bang! The bars on the stairs curved from impact. Jiang Peng evaded the attack at the last minute. With one arm bleeding and another incapacitated, Jiang Peng had given up on resistance. He even dropped his knife as he ran down the stairs. You dare visit my haunted house with such lack of courage? Grabbing the iron hammer, Chen Ge gave chase after his prey as the two of them returned to the first floor. Chapter 49. Xiao Chen, are you hurt? Jiang Peng shot out of the workers' passageway like a bullet. As blind as one, too. The layout of the haunted house was complicated, and combined with the lack of lighting, several minutes later, he soon realized with a sinking heart that he was lost. Why are you stopping? Don't be afraid, I won't hurt you. I just want to do a small experiment on you. With both of his hands on the iron hammer, Chen Ge trailed behind Jiang Peng, slowly leading his prey into a dead end. Not going to harm me? The moment we met, you cracked my arm? That is what you called not going to harm me? Jiang Peng had lost his only weapon. His left arm was bleeding. His right arm was limp, hanging off his shoulder like a noodle. In that moment, he felt wronged, and the thought to call the police for help appeared in his mind. Listen to my advice. Stop struggling and follow my orders, or you might need a wheelchair for the rest of your life. Chen Ge took deliberate steps toward Jiang Peng. He had no pity for the man. After all, Jiang Peng was there to kill him. If he had not discovered that sooner, he would have been dead already. Boss, does that sound like what a victim would say? I must have been jinxed. Jiang Peng was completely defenseless, so he ran down whatever open path he could find. That pair of legs sure know how to run. Chen Ge continued to chase after Jiang Peng. However, several steps later, a sawing noise appeared in Chen Ge's ears again as a black shadow shot out from the workers' passageway. The mirror monster must have understood what was really happening by then. It knew this was the perfect opportunity. Jiang Peng raced blindly around the first floor. When he turned a corner, he saw a figure of a man waving at him from the corner of his eyes. Perhaps he was too scared by Chen Ge because he ran toward that person without a second thought. Chen Ge, who followed behind Jiang Peng, saw this, and a chill ran down his spine. The figure was around the same build as He Feng. It was the mirror monster. I want you to live, but you insist on dying. That's a real ghost." Chen Ge's warning fell on deaf ears. Zhang Peng had reached the end of the corridor, and with the guidance of the figure, he wandered into the bathroom. The mirrors in the first-floor bathroom are in pristine condition. Since it's leading Zhang Peng toward the bathroom, the monster is going to make its move soon. Chen Ge was feeling nervous since the crucial moment had arrived. He dashed to the bathroom and worked with the doorknob. It was then that he realized the door was locked. The development had strayed from his plan. The sudden appearance of the black shadow had ruined everything. It had managed to capture Zhang Peng before Chen Ge could detain the man. "Ah!" Several seconds later, an ear-splitting scream came out from behind the bathroom door. Then it was followed by the sound of stuff falling and crashing. Zhang Peng seemed to have stumbled across something really scary. "What's going on in there?" Chen Ge raised the hammer to crack down on the doorknob. The doorknob fell off, but the door still would not budge. Someone had used the cupboard to block the door from behind it. Unable to know what was happening inside the bathroom, Chen Ge was anxious as he swung the hammer repeatedly at the wooden door. Bang! 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 The loud noises could be heard even outside the haunted house. Chen Ge had depleted most of his energy before he managed to break the hollow wooden door. The cupboard behind it had started to budge to reveal an opening that was about half a palm wide. Looking through the opening, Chen Ge saw the black cloth that covered the mirror had fallen to the floor. Zhang Peng was staring at the mirror with his eyes unfocused, but the scariest thing was there was a large black shadow standing between him and the mirror. The black shadow was slowly morphing until it became almost like Zhang Peng. It took one step back to allow half of its body to melt into the mirror, and then the weirdest thing happened. The dazed Zhang Peng walked toward the mirror. He pressed his face against the surface of the mirror. His body and the black shadow were slowly merging. About 4 seconds later, a creepy grin appeared on Zhang Peng's blank face. He slowly turned around and made sure to hold Chen Ge's gaze through the door and the cupboard. He swiped some fresh blood off his arm and wrote down something on the surface of the mirror. Another 1 or 2 seconds later, spirit seemed to return to Zhang Peng's eyes. He shuddered visibly before jumping out the bathroom window and out of the haunted house. The mirror monster has escaped into Zhang Peng's body? But does that thing have such a deep resentment toward me? Could it be because I've ruined its plan multiple times? The mirror monster had assaulted both He-san and He-feng. Both times, it had been interrupted due to an external influence. That was probably why the monster harbored resentment toward the owner of the haunted house, Chen Ge. The door to the bathroom was still blocked, and it would stay blocked for quite some time. Chen Ge quickly rushed to the front door, but before he could get anywhere, he could hear Inspector Lee's voice calling. "Chen Ge, hang in there! We're coming to get you!" Following a loud bang, the haunted house's gate was pried off its hinges, and several officers streamed into the building. Seeing this, Chen Ge immediately tossed the iron hammer to the side and removed his outfit and mask. The sound of footsteps echoed down the corridor. Inspector Lee was the first one to burst through the darkness. Seeing Chen Ge standing all alone in the corridor, he asked with concern, "Xiao Chen, are you hurt?" Chen Ge played into the skit as he staggered a step back and leaned weakly against the wall. He had his hand on his chest as he said, "I was shocked, but I wasn't hurt. Leave me be. Go chase after Zhang Peng. I saw him jump out of the haunted house's bathroom window." "Okay. Leave the rest to us. Thank you for your help tonight." "Don't mention it. To be able to help the law enforcement is my honor. What is a little risk or sacrifice? But you'd better not act so rashly anymore in the future. Just look at how dangerous it was tonight." Inspector Lee's eyes were aglow with admiration and approval. He had his men chase after Zhang Peng while he stayed behind with Chen Ge inside the haunted house to examine the crime scene. He wandered into the staff break room first. When he saw the blood on the bed, he turned to Chen Ge with worry. "Xiao Chen, you're injured? Let me see." "That isn't mine." Chen Ge also didn't know how to explain it. At the time, the room was dark. The suspect probably accidentally hurt himself. Inspector Lee nodded. He used his flashlight to examine the knife marks on the bed frame and bedsheet, and his expression darkened. "You're not wrong. A man who is not familiar with knife work would accidentally slash himself in extreme stressful situations." He counted the visible marks and concluded, 17 slashes in total. This is more than enough to pin him with attempted murder. This is the best proof. Looking at the knife marks, Chen Ge also felt a chill run up his arms. Inspector Lee pulled on his gloves and signaled for Chen Ge to vacate the room. Remember to not touch anything in this room. Later, people will come to take pictures to keep as evidence. Of course, I will provide my full cooperation. Chen Ge retreated out of the room and returned to where he had been earlier to hide the iron mallet before walking to the first-floor bathroom. He stood before the ruined door and wondered to himself, if I'm not mistaken, Zhang Peng wrote something on the mirror, right?